start out with an ordinary Saturday morning, binoculars around my neck, standing on the edge of a marsh, and 15 years of bird sightings tucked away in my head, and a database that I'm going to tell you about in just a minute. That's how I started out my morning today. Binoculars out in the field, looking for birds. But here's the question I want to answer today. What does it actually look like when AI can be used for something you love? When you're not a technical person, maybe you have zero interest in becoming one. How can you love your hobbies even more? Some people call this vibe coding without basically describing what you want to AI and let it build it without you needing to understand anything, without you being able to understand anything at all. Now, I'm not a fan of that label. It makes it sound more complicated more techie than it needs to be. So let's set up the turn aside and let's just look at what it's actually happening. Because what I've actually been building is a birding system. 15 years of sightings, hundreds of species over hundreds of locations across the North Woods. And AI has become woven into almost every aspect of how I experience that hobby today. Today, I went out for a walk out in nature. And when you think about specific ways that this can happen, and I want to walk you through 5 specific ways this can happen, not theories about what AI could potentially do someday, but what actually it does for me on a regular basis Saturday mornings, binoculars around my neck, standing at the edge of a marsh. So let me begin, and very slowly, about this very long project I had been working on. My friend and I have been logging bird sightings in eBird, over 800 trips, 12,000 entries, hundreds of species, dates, location, counts, all captured there. And for a long time, that data just sits with them in their database. It's not useful to me at all. They are doing scientific research with it. They are using it so that they can mine the data to try to find something deeper out there. And this winter, I decided to move all 12,000 of those sightings into something called Notion, which we're also not going to talk about today. But it's essentially a personal collection of data that I have for myself that I can use. Every species linked together so I can pull up any trip, every location, every bird, every time I went out, every time I recorded it, and I can see the location, the date, the time, the year. But what happens when AI enters the picture is, I thought about it. It's going to be a huge project. That's a lot of things to type into a database, or I don't want to call it database. Let's just say a knowledge repository. I didn't want to build that database. It was going to take a long time. In fact, it was somewhat my goal for this entire year about doing this. So I was going to work on it, and it was going to take me years to accomplish. And so what I came to AI is I told it, I want to be able to look at this list of birds. I had a file that I exported out of the eBird website and see a timeline where I've seen this bird, what year, what location, when was the earliest time I saw this bird, and where's the place I saw this bird the most often. And what Claude helped me do was, through this structure, build it into this other application and then populated the data from this file I got from eBird. What actually came out of the other side is something I genuinely use, and it's not a tech project for its own sake. It's a living record of 15 years of bird watching, 15 years of Saturday mornings out in the field. And I've been working on this, even improving it this week, so that I can have a linked view of every excursion so I can ask it basic questions. Where is the place that I see yellow warblers the most? What's the very first day I've seen a yellow warbler? What sighting do I have over the course of a month? And it's all there. And not only did I not have to do any programming at all, because I am not a programmer, there was no code. It's just Notion doing what Notion does and asking it real-life human questions about my own data. Maybe I even can ask it a question. Hey, I just saw a blue bird sitting on top of a pole. What might that be? It, through Notion AI, which has its own AI, it can look at my data and say, that's most likely a bluebird. Oh, but now I saw another bluebird and it's sitting on top of a very tall tree. Oh, you know what? That's probably an indigo bunting. All those observations, all that data that I put in about the birds, the locations, the sightings I had is now the foundation of everything I do. So that's one use case that I used AI to help me become a better birder. Now I can ask it questions in natural languages, and all the data that I had Claude put in, it can help me identify birds I see. It can help me look for locations where I most likely see a bird, or it can just tell the story of what my last year looked like. For my friend's birthday, I made a video of all the different things we saw, all the different locations we went to, and I had all that information right there that I could just ask a simple, in English, written question. Hey, could you tell me all the locations I went to with my friend last year? And it instantaneously pulled it up. So the next part of it is that every birder has a story about a bird that they got wrong. They thought about it confidently. They told their friend what they thought it was. Maybe you said it in front of somebody else, and they were absolutely incorrect about it. So my situation involves a snow geese. There are two different kinds of birds that look very similar, snow geese and Ross's goose. They look identical to the casual eye. White body, black wingtips, pinkish bill, and at a distance in a mixed flock, it's hard to tell them apart. So asking AI to help me build an infographic so that I could see them side by side, a visual graphic pointing out the differences between the two birds in their markings. Their beaks are a little bit different. Their sizes are a little bit different. The bill shape is different. The Ross's goose has a short, stubby bill with a slightly curved base and a grinning patch on the side, while the snow goose has longer bills, distinctive dark lines. And so through that, I had AI start to create infographics for me so that I can tell the difference between different birds. The snow goose versus the Ross's goose, the gadwall versus the mallard. I can now have these pictures I can flip through and easily identify birds that often get confused with each other. So when you're scanning, a flock and looking over hundreds of birds standing out there in a field, now the infographics that AI created for me lives on my phone, can also be printed out, and I can pull them up in the field. I have shown it to my buddy M, and it has saved us both times of misidentification. It's one of the most practical, zero technical skills of anything that I found year-round. You just described two similar species. You ask for a clear comparison, an infographic that points out their differences, and boom, draws it up. Now, in this particular case, this is ChatGPT because it has a graphics generating software, while Claude right now does not. But it instantaneously gives us this opportunity to find identifiable ways of looking at birds. But let me tell you about the third use case, which sounds almost too convenient to be real. I bird across different spots in a single day with my friend Em. We might go to one location in the morning, stop off at this other pond in the afternoon, head off to this marsh by late afternoon. And by the time I'm driving all these different locations, I've seen 40 different species I'm trying to keep in my head. I started using voice through CarPlay to log them as we drive. Between stops, I'll say, at this location, at this morning, I saw yellow warblers, a common yellowthroat, pair of sandhill cranes, and a sora calling from the reeds. The Baltimore oriole was in the willow trees, and a great egret was on the east pond. At the end of the day, by all that time, AI had a list of all the things I had seen. So then I could say, give me a clean list of all the birds I saw at every location, organized, by what time I told you to organize it. Give me a total count for the day. How many species did I see over time? And a short summary, maybe just a paragraph or two, that gave me the capture of the feel of the day. It's the light, the weather, the moments that I said were most memorable to me, and give me a summary of that day. I actually have a journal, basically, and so we can put this in and say, the hit of the day is we saw over 400 trumpeter swans, and mixed in there, snow geese. But then I said, well, will this be fun? I also asked it for a very simple graphic. Could you represent the day's visual things to me? Like, draw a picture of what my day was like. And so there were cranes standing out in the field, a marsh at the morning golden hour, and it's something that I could take this image and attach it to my journal. So not only did I get a description of my day, I got what kind of like a nice picture of what my day looked like. The whole thing took about, I would say, under 10 minutes. And I ended up with something that I actually want to keep, a record about what my day was like. Because, honestly, you go birding a lot. Maybe one day kind of blends into another. The next use case that I have for birding is one of the simplest and maybe the most magical. So now I'm standing out in a field and there's a bird. You don't know what it is. This used to be me all the time. I'd flip through guidebooks or namely apps, try to remember what I learned when I was studying it before, argue with my birding buddy here. Is this a yellow-throated or a yellow-breasted? What is this? Is it a vireo? Is it a flycatcher? What are we looking at here? And maybe I take a photo and look it up later. But now I can use AI, take a photo, describe it, and ask it what it thinks it is. And I can do this in a couple of different ways. I'll try to describe the bird out loud and get a quick description of it on my phone. Small brown bird, rusty tail, pumping up and down, streaky breast, and a very upright position, singing from the top of a shrub. AI will walk through the possibilities with me in real time, narrow it down, and tell me what field marks to look for. Then when I'm at home, I can upload the pictures and say, hey, this is what I actually saw. Oh, you know what? Eastern towhee. Because those markings are within the range of what other similar species might have that I could get confused with it. The last part of it is that I just don't want to know the answer. I want to understand how to get the answer better next time without even asking AI. AI is a good enough teacher. That way I can ask it to explain to me the differences between this bird or that bird, between a yellow-throated vireo and a least flycatcher. I'm just making up things, but yeah, they're real birds. But the idea is I can say, help me identify this better the next time. The last point where I use AI is not even something to do with identification. It more has to do with understanding the birds a little bit better. A friend of mine put it well recently when we looked back at conversations. That early on, we would always get this version of a question. What is this bird? And now the question is more like, why would this happen? What does this tell us about this bird habitat? And something that I came across from working with these mysteries is like, for example, we saw blue feathers stuck on a Canada goose. Why does it have blue feathers all of a sudden? A small swan cygnet seemed to be the runt of the group, trying to catch up with mom. An eagle with an unusually, looking unusually tired on the bank of a river, while red-winged blackbirds and long-necked stilts were attacking it. Is it okay? Is it sick? And it said, you know what? It's probably just tired. A strange-looking concentration of loons in one particular spot. A handful of crayfish that were migrating overland near a marsh, which birds might be picking up and taking away before the next heat wave. All of these start out as sort of research projects, kind of this, that's kind of odd moments that you just see when you're in the middle of a field. It turns into an actual conversation about migration or timing or weather or habitat, behavior. I had one example where it sounded like someone was dropping huge rocks into a river. What the heck is that? Walk over there. It was a beaver taking its tail and smacking it against the river water. What is it doing? You know what? It was defending its territory. That's what it does when it's giving a warning sign to other beavers. So that's the shift, is not just naming things, but trying now to understand what's actually happening. That's the part that I didn't really expect AI to help with. I thought it was going to be good or faster at bird identification. The Merlin app is really good at identifying songs or identifying pictures. But now what I'm getting is the idea of asking better questions. The habit is the thing that is actually shaping this podcast the most. How can I actually learn more about this? So, for example, a few weeks ago, my friend Em and I saw a black-billed cuckoo, and it was gathering nest material. Now, if you listen to my other podcast I did about parasitic birds, they are birds that put their eggs in other birds' nests. They don't build nests. So why is this black-billed cuckoo gathering up nesting material? Asked AI. It said, well, they will build a nest, but they'll also every once in a while throw their eggs in somebody else's nest just to ensure that the eggs stay viable. So it wasn't purely as I thought it was. Black-billed cuckoos will build a nest, but also dump their eggs in other people's nests. So let's get back to this database that I was making or information I was doing it. In the technical sense, I just described in plain language what I want, how I wanted it to work. I wanted to be able to pull up a day. Today, I went to this particular marsh. This is what I saw, and be able to look at it again. Or I want to be able to ask questions like, how many times have I seen a glossy-faced ibis standing in the marsh? I didn't write code. I didn't write a line of code. What I actually did is I talked to Claude, told it in English what I wanted to have happen, and it figured out how to actually run it. The interesting thing is at first it asked if I could run some level of code. And I said, look, I'm not a developer. I don't know anything about running that kind of code. That's no problem. I'll take care of it. So what's actually happening is a little bit different and a lot less complicated than what it may sound like. I'm a person who loves birds, and I have that 15 years of data. And now finally I have a tool that I can do something meaningful with it. The AI didn't give me the love of the hobby. What it did is it gave me all my data available at my fingertips so that I could just remove the technical barriers and start using it to make my hobby better. It created the tool I've always wanted to have without me not understanding a thing about how to create it. This is particularly worth talking about because those of you who maybe thought of AI as something for other people, more technical people, younger people, or people who aren't standing at the edge of the marsh in the North Woods trying to decide whether there's a Ross's goose or a snow goose standing there. You don't have to be a developer to use these tools. You just have to know what you want out of the tools. And for me, that was the bird information that I really wanted. There's other use cases out there. This is one I wanted to give you that was close to home for me. I got all this yarn back there. I could say, I have this yarn. This is the brand. How many skeins of it do I need in order to knit a pair of socks with it? Can you give me a socks pattern for it? Whatever your hobby is, maybe I want a database so that I can categorize all my yarn so I have them in a list. I could just take a picture of my yarn and then ask it to create a list for me so I have that list available to me so I know what kind of yarn I have. Whatever your hobby is, AI can give you a technical tool without you having to know anything technical. It's possible to do it. And if you don't even know what tool it is, I use Notion. I call it a database, but think of it more like organized data. If you didn't have that kind of tool, you can just ask it. I would love to have a list of all my yarn. So when I'm in the yarn store, I can just look it up and figure out a project to make with it. Ask it. Tell it what you really need. It will suggest different types of technical solutions for you. It might be even, it has ways of creating web pages for you that are just for you. So maybe you create a web portal so that you can look at all your yarn and find out exactly what it is you have. But for me, it was birds, and that was the important thing. It has given me new ways to enjoy birding, not just what is that bird, not even my information that I've been collecting over the last 15 years, but now also telling me more information about it. That crayfish thing happened this morning. I don't know why those crayfish were running across the marsh. So the first thing we did, pick up AI and ask it, what's happening here? Can you just tell us what's going on? So I appreciate you being out there. If you have any questions or any hurdles that you have in your life that you would like AI to solve, let me know. Put a comment right here if you're watching this on video, or email me at jill@startwithsmallsteps.com. Thanks so much for listening.